Today, we're digging into a pretty radical idea from a text that points to a single source for all human suffering. Yeah, it's a bold claim, and the answer it gives is, well, both incredibly simple and seriously challenging. So, let's just get right into it.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if every single problem we see out there in the world, and even the stuff we struggle with in our own lives, could all be traced back to just one single thing? It's a huge question, you know? One that people have been wrestling with for forever.
Well, a text by an author named Zhuo Feng doesn't just ask the question, it claims to have the answer. It points a finger at one specific cause for all our suffering and lays out a solution that is, let's say, crystal clear, even if it's not at all easy.
And there it is. That's the core argument, right from the source. The one thing holding us all back? The ego. Now, that's a word we hear all the time, but what does this text really mean by it? Let's unpack the problem as it's defined right here.
So, before we can even begin to understand the solution, we have to get really clear on the problem. What is this ego, and why does the author believe it's the ultimate stumbling block for every single one of us?
According to this text, the ego is basically the source code for selfishness. And this isn't just some private feeling, it's an active force. It's something that causes real harm to other people, to society, to the world. But here's the kicker. That harm doesn't just flow one way.
The author argues that this all creates a vicious feedback loop, kind of like a spiritual boomerang that just keeps us trapped. Let's take a look at exactly how this cycle is supposed to work.
The logic laid out here is super clear. It starts with the ego. That ego gives birth to selfishness. Then that selfishness leads to harmful actions. But the harm doesn't just stop there. It boomerangs, reflecting right back on the person who caused it, and bam, you're locked into this self-perpetuating cycle of pain.
So you might be wondering, is this some kind of brand new idea? The author argues, not a chance. The text claims this whole concept of needing to overcome the ego is actually a universal truth, a core teaching you can find in all sorts of different spiritual traditions. First, the text brings up what it calls the teachings of gods. And the message there? That abandoning the ego is the only way to get true, and they capitalize this, life and peace.
Next, it points to Buddhism. The argument is that being free of ego, form, and worry is the key to entering the Elysium world, which is basically a paradise, a realm of perfect happiness.
It also pulls from the teachings of what it calls celestial beings, divine or heavenly figures. Their teaching is to be unrestrained and carefree by following your true nature, which the author connects directly to a life without ego. And finally, we have the teachings of saints, who are described as people who've moved beyond their own personal egos to embrace something bigger, a more universal, collective way of being.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The text says that if you look really closely, all these different spiritual paths are fundamentally saying the exact same thing. The one universal message is this: you have to be free from ego. Okay, so the author then pivots from theory to practice, claiming to have some real-world proof. And this is where the text introduces a community it calls the New Oasis for Life.
And here, the text sets up a really stark contrast. On one side, you've got traditional family life, which it describes as being trapped by the ego, leading to less freedom and happiness. And on the other side, you've got this new oasis, a community it says is freer from ego, and, because of that, experiences way more joy and liberty.
And this visualizes that core claim. The text is saying there's a direct correlation here. The freer a community is from ego, the higher its levels of happiness, freedom, and joy are going to be. Simple as that. Okay, so all of this leads to the most obvious question, right? If the ego is the problem, how in the world do you actually solve it? Well, thankfully, the text doesn't just point out the issue. It actually offers a practical 8-step guide to get to selflessness.
So the text lays out this really clear 8-step path. The first 4 are all about building the foundation. It starts with these big ideas: living in harmony with the Creator, learning from the great spiritual masters, and shifting your focus from me to we by becoming part of the collective. And that 4th step, it's all about acceptance, letting go of desire and just taking things as they come.
Now, the next 4 steps get way more personal and practical. They're all about letting go of control, don't own things or people, don't interfere, don't try to change others, and stop judging them. It's a pretty radical practice of just letting things be. And the path finishes with seeking out selfless role models and, most importantly, staying humble. So, after all of that, what's the ultimate goal here? It's not about becoming nothing. No, according to this text, it's about finally becoming everything you were meant to be.
The text ends with this powerful reminder of what's at stake. The ego isn't just some little hurdle. It's framed as the root of all trouble, all pain, all misfortune. It's a path that, the author says, will inevitably lead you to a lower space of life.
And this brings us to this beautiful paradox that's really at the heart of this text. To find your true self, and that self with a capital S, you first have to become selfless. You have to let go of that small, fearful, little self of the ego.
This final quote really drives that point home. It's the same idea, just said a different way. Achieving this higher self isn't something you gain through striving and wanting. It's gained through its exact opposite, total freedom from ego.
So, the text presents this as nothing less than the secret to a brilliant life. It's a way of looking at the world that flips our modern ideas of success and who we are completely upside down. Which kind of leaves us with one last, really crucial question. What would it truly mean for you to be free from ego? And what might that freedom actually unlock in your own life?